Are townhomes becoming the new starter home for many of you who are younger buyers as our market continues to see price growth? Well, Benny871, I think you might be correct. Back in 2019, from September to November, a starter detached home in Calgary was selling for a median price of $377,750, which was about a 1,280 square foot home. For roughly that same square footage today, that home is going for $599,300 median sale dollars over the past 90 days. So the starter detached home for under $500,000 in Calgary, it's just not a thing anymore. Townhomes, well, they're becoming the new starter home that you could be looking at and what you're needing to buy. Today, we're going to be talking about what the market looks like in Calgary, the surrounding cities, and discussing 15 questions that you should be asking yourself and us as your agent when you're buying a townhome. So what are properties, townhomes selling for in Calgary? Well, over the last 90 days, I pulled the stats, we looked at the numbers, and for the median sale price, it was $461,789. Now, the median square footage was 1,292 square feet. So for that amount of money, you're typically getting that amount of square feet. Now, number of sales, there's over 1,100 sales, 1,103, and the average age, so meaning year built, was actually 2000. So there's a lot of different properties that are built earlier and older, which we'll get to, but the average age for Calgary was properties built in the year 2000. So this equates to a price per square foot of roughly $357. So let's take a look at Airdrie. Now, Airdrie is a city north of Calgary, and you can get to downtown typically within, 40 minutes kind of thing if you're working there. City to city limits on a good day, 15 minutes. On a traffic day, 25, 30 minutes. So it's not that far out of Calgary, but it's north of Calgary. So the median price for townhomes over the last 90 days there was $431,698. And that was getting you a little bit of a bigger place than Calgary at 1,307 square feet. Now there's over 100 sales, 106 to be exact over the last 90 days. And the average age there was actually 2013. So these are some newer properties that are a little bit bigger than Calgary for less money because your price per square foot is at $330 compared to the $350 that we saw in Calgary. Now, heading west of the city is a town and city called Cochrane. Cochrane is a beautiful setting. It's in a valley. It's gorgeous. There's a lot of traffic coming in and out, and hopefully they're continuing to work on that traffic flow. However, it is a great area. And townhomes there, the median price is $458,010 over the last 90 days. That was getting you about 1,313 square feet, and there was about 50 sales that happened over the last 90 days. And now the average age for year built was 2011. So it also has newer townhomes than what we're seeing in Calgary across the whole city. Now their price per square foot, all of this equates to $349, which is really close to Calgary, and it's a lot more than Airdrie's. So now let's circle down south of the city, down to Okotoks, where the median sale price there over the last 90 days was $411,800. And that was getting you about a 1,214 square foot property. Now there's only 15 sales over the last 90 days, so it's way smaller of a pool than all of the other areas so far. And the age that's down there is 2003. So if you're looking for newer properties, newer townhomes for better pricing, so far you want to be looking up in Airdrie, most likely, out of these three so far, because the price per square foot in Okotoks is $339 per square foot. So if you're looking for something a little bit newer, you might find that more in Airdrie than you would in Okotoks. However, if you are wanting to find the best deal, the biggest square footage for the least amount of price, then you need to consider Chestermere. So Chestermere's townhomes over the last 90 days, the median sale price was $441,330. But that was actually getting you over 1,400 square feet, 1,407. So when you compare it to the other cities, that's sometimes nearly 200 square feet more, which is quite a bit when you're looking at a property this size. There was about 40 sales that happened over the last 90 days, and they actually have the newest places on the market. So 2016. So 2016 was the average year built in Chestermere. So if you're looking for the newest and the cheapest, because they're only at $314 per square foot. Chestermere has great neighborhoods. It has great amenities. It has everything that you need, and you can live out there if you just wanted to live there and be there. But it is getting really full. We have heard a lot of people talk about some kind of congestion, traffic. The roads aren't being developed as quickly as the neighborhoods are. So like Cochrane, because that is happening a little bit out there too, Chestermere is somewhere that you kind of have to kind of live with. I mean, Calgary's getting full too. So everywhere we are living right now is more traffic, more people have moved here. But if price and square footage is what you're going after, then Chestermere might be something you want to consider, especially because it's only $314 per square foot compared to nearly $360 per square foot in Calgary. So one question we do get often is, where are the best townhomes located? And truthfully, like so many general big questions, it's not an easy answer because it really depends on your budget, depends on your family needs and more. However, I do have a map of all of these 90-day sales, and I want to show you, because if you take a look at this map here, you can see that townhomes are selling everywhere. like they're everywhere. And if you wanted to look, so this is where I was talking about some of these cities outside of Calgary. So here's Airdrie and all of its sales. Over on the west side is Cochrane. Down south is Okotoks, and over here is Chestermere. And so Chestermere, out of all of them, is really the closest to the city. You're really close to Stony Trail right there where it says 201. And when you start looking at where townhomes are located inside neighborhoods and what is selling, you start to see a little bit of a trend here. So as you can see, there are townhomes selling all over the city, but they come in clusters. And why is that? Well, because they are in complexes and they are basically built together. That's what a townhome is. So if we go up north, this might be a little bit easier to see, but you can see little clusters of these townhomes being sold. Now, one thing you can expect when buying a townhome is the location of the complexes. The complexes are usually on main roads or close to main entrances of neighborhoods. Because when developers build a neighborhood and they lay out how it's gonna look, usually they put more of the bigger detached properties in the middle of the neighborhood, and then they put the multi-family sites on the exterior, on the outskirts of it, along major intersections. So they'll end up putting apartment buildings and townhome complexes all in these specific areas around the neighborhoods. So you can see, like Panorama is a good example. So right up in here, there are a whole bunch of complexes, and they kind of follow this main road through here, as well as down on the east side over here. So this is coming in from Stony Trail, and up in this area, there's a lot of apartments as well as townhomes. And same thing when you look up in Sage. So you can see these clusters. So when you're looking for where is a good place to buy a townhome, I would focus on the neighborhood, the location of the city, as well as the prices. I would look at what you're getting for the value that's being asked, because you can't change location. And so finding the location for you is really, really important. So the other thing that's important is the age of the complex, the age of the units that are inside the townhome complex. And truthfully, they come in all different ages. So Calgary, when you look at the average age, it had the oldest properties. And part of that is because Calgary had a big boom in the 70s for a lot of different townhome complexes. So when you look at this chart that I pulled from all the sales over the last 90 days, what you can see is 31% of the sales that sold over the last 90 days were built between the years 2010 and 2020. And now 22%, the next group, was built in the 1970s. 19 and 16% were built in 2000s and between 2020 up to today. So you've got a wide spread of different ages of townhomes that are selling in Calgary and the surrounding cities. So what do you do with this? Well, basically, if a townhome is what you're looking for, because it really truly is becoming more of the starter home that we used to have in the city, townhomes are becoming that. So what are the biggest questions you need to ask? Because buying a detached property is completely different than buying a townhome. So here are 15 questions that you should be asking. So the first thing you want to be asking is, what are the neighborhood amenities? Because finding out what the neighborhood is like is really, really important, because this becomes part of where you're living. So look at what is prevalent. What kind of shopping centers are there? What kind of parks, schools, public transportation? All of those things are really, really valuable. So make sure you ask that question first. The second thing is, what is the community feel? If they have the amenities that are there, what does it feel like? Because if you have a family and you got 2 young kids and you're looking at a townhome, are there other kids around? Are there other families around? Or does it feel much older, like an older demographic where you might not fit in as well? So understand that feel for what you're looking for, and vice versa. If you're older and there's lots of kids around, you might not want that. I mean, maybe you do, but either way, you want to know what the feel of the community as well as the complex is like. So how you can do that is sometimes just drive around, get a sense of it. If there's a complex that you're interested in, kind of show up when people are coming home. Maybe just sit outside in your car. Don't be too creepy, but sit outside in your car. You can watch, do some people watching, see what type of people are coming into the complex, what kind of type of people are leaving. Maybe look at the cars. If there's a lot of minivans, is there a lot of just like regular cars, like whatever it is, but do something to kind of understand the feel of what that complex is like. Now, the third thing is all about your floor plan. Every floor plan is not equal. There are some that are really, really great and they flow really well for certain types of people that are buying it, families, couples, singles, but some of them don't. Those floor plans don't work for others. So having a floor plan that is going to work for you is really, really important. It is going to help you enjoy that property so much more. So don't skip on the floor plan and the feel of the unit when you're actually looking at it and when you're trying to find a property. So walk away from stuff that just doesn't feel right. Now, number 4 is maintenance and upkeep. So what are the maintenance things that you're responsible for? Sometimes in some townhome complexes, you are responsible for windows and doors. Sometimes you're not, because typically you are responsible for what's inside of the drywall. But not every complex is the same. There are also going to be some complexes where you have to do some exterior upkeep, maybe in a small yard. A whole bunch of them don't have that, as well as like, what is yours? So you could end up having an RPR, so a survey plan, and you actually own the land for that townhouse, but most of them, you don't own the land. So just understand what all of those things are. What is yours? What is not yours? What are you responsible for if this becomes the townhome that you're wanting to purchase? Number 5 is all about noise and privacy. So when you're in the unit, try to book a showing. If you're able to book a second showing, go back and book a showing where you might end up hearing more neighbors. So do it as a busier hour, maybe later in the day, maybe around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock dinner time, something like that, because that actually might help you understand how much noise is being transferred. Now, in my experience, I typically don't always hear noise transferred side to side. It's usually up and down. So one of our first properties that Rebecca and I used to live in, it was a condo. And so because we were agents and we were working from home, the owner above us just one day decided they would start babysitting more kids. And so the hallway, right above our hallway, turned into this racetrack and noise transferred like crazy. And it was really, really exhausting. So make sure you know or can try to do the best that you can. I mean, go and meet the neighbors. I mean, there's nothing saying that if you have a conditional offer that you can't go and knock on either side and just meet the neighbors. I mean, most agents don't even talk about that, but that is something that you can do and just say, hey, I bought this property. I wanted to meet you. Who are you? I'm going to be living beside you. That could really help you understand what kind of privacy and noise levels you're going to get. So if you're like me, we have a dog. And not all townhomes and condo complexes are okay with dogs and pets. So understanding in the bylaws what you are allowed. Now, a lot of agents will say, well, we can't get that information until we're conditional, but ask your agent. If you're working with us, ask us to actually ask the listing agent before you even book a showing if your pet, your dog, your cat, your mouse, I don't know if anyone has a mouse pet, but if whatever pet you have, and it's really important you want to keep that pet, ask if it's allowed inside the bylaws. Most listing agents are already looking up this stuff because they know they're going to get asked the question. So be picky, ask it, and don't even go look at places that aren't going to allow your pets unless you're willing to get rid of your pet, but let's not do that. Now, parking. Parking is a massive issue when it comes to complexes. We all have cars. Some of us have multiple cars in a family unit, right? And knowing that you have enough parking spaces is really, really going to be important. If you've got one car, two cars, if you have a teenager in your home and they're gonna have a car in the next 2 years and you're probably planning on living in this townhouse for the next 5 years, well, think about that. How is that gonna work? Is there street parking that's restricted? Is there spots that you can rent from others? Just think about these things ahead of time, because now you're kind of in a little bit more of a communal living. You don't just have a detached house with a driveway. You have a parking spot. Think about those things fully prior to pulling the trigger on the property, because that is gonna help you a lot when it comes to figuring out what exactly you need to do when it comes to parking. So number 8 is all about safety and security. So you might be in a position where you are downsizing into a townhome and you're not gonna be there that often. So you're gonna have this property, you're gonna live here half the year, whatever it is, or maybe you travel lots for work. I mean, regardless, even if you don't even travel, safety and security is a really important thing. So most likely you're not going to be finding any complexes that are gated, that are completely secure, but what does it look like? How does it feel, right? What are you close to? What roads are you close to? Are you really close to a lot of transit where there's a lot of transient people potentially? What don't you like about safety, and are you close to that? Like if there's something that you want to keep your kids, your family, yourself away from, is that near the complex? Now, number 9, I don't know about you, but natural light is really important to my family. And any place that we've bought, we've always had all the lights off before we've purchased it in the middle of the day. And this is just a quick strategy to kind of see how much light is actually coming into this unit. Whether it's a townhouse, a house, a condo, whatever it is, turn all the lights off and just get a sense of what it's like. Because when you see a property, usually all the lights are on and it looks great and it's bright and it's big and it's open. But as soon as you turn the lights off, see what it feels like. So get a sense of that and try that trick when you're there if natural light is really important to you. So number 10 is energy efficiency. If this is important to you, you may want to look at what the complex is doing or is planning on doing to have better energy efficiency. So some of the things too in a townhome, you could be owning all of the mechanical items. So are some of those older, like if you're in the 1970 properties, are these breaking down? I mean, let's be honest, some of those furnaces from 1970s and 80s are probably the best that have ever been built. And they still work really good, but you might want to change them in the future to keep your utility costs down. Just an idea. But if energy efficiency is important to you, look to see what the plan is. Because if the complex just has really crappy windows and you're paying for heat and you don't get to control the windows, that might be a little bit more expensive, and you might want to look at a newer neighborhood or a newer complex. So it's just those types of trade-offs that you want to be aware of when you're thinking of buying this townhome. Now, outdoor space. Number 11, not all townhomes are created equal, and not all of them have outdoor space that is specifically yours. A lot of them have outdoor space that is common property, but what is yours? What can you close the gate, right? We literally were just at a housewarming for one of the buyers that Rebecca worked with, and they loved the fact that they were able to close their gates because they have a little dog. So their little dog is able to go out. They have this little yard. It's perfect. And then honestly, this dog could just run around the backyard 3 times and have its daily steps in because it was that tiny, but it's perfect that way. So in that sense, knowing what is your outdoor space versus what is common property outdoor space is really, really important. Number 12 is all about the resale potential. So what is the resale potential for this complex and this townhome? The way you want to look at this is you want to look at what is being developed around the townhome. Is there new infrastructure? Is there going to be new buildings, right? Is there more people, less people that are going to be accessing, the exterior of the complex? Is it going to get busier or is it going to stay the same? All of these things can come into play when it comes to what is that future value. So for example, it might be really quiet right now around this complex that you really like, but in the future, there's a chance that a major road could be built behind there. Because again, townhome complexes are built in major intersections or major entrances to communities. And so you want to know that as much as you can't know everything, but if that's going to be built in the future and this is an end unit that's looking on to what that is, well, that could actually hurt the resale value. So thinking through these things, asking these questions to us as your agents when we're buying these properties is really important because it helps, planning out the future and what it looks like. Now, the 13th item is commute times. How long does it take you to get where you need to go? Is the townhome complex located in the neighborhood in such a way that it's easy to get out of the neighborhood, or do you really got to cross the whole neighborhood to get out? Maybe that you don't want to do that. So what is the commute times to public transportation, to buses, to your work, to friends, to churches, to whatever it is you're going to, and does it work for you? Think about that. Now, number 14 is all about home customization. So you might remember me saying earlier in the video that typically you own drywall in. So this means you can't just knock down a wall. It means you can't just open up spaces. You can't do that. And so you have to typically get board approval in order to do some of those things. So I remember there's some townhome complexes over the years that were built in the 70s and the 80s, and they really had all these small rooms. It was an open concept. And so we had some buyers who wanted to purchase a property because of the location, because it was older and they really liked it. I think it was in ranch lands actually. And they really, really liked the location of it. They could walk to transit. It was right on Crowchild. It was really simple. However, when it came time to them to actually, when we're conditional, they wanted to get board approval to do renovations. They weren't allowed to do what they wanted to do. So they had to make a choice. Is location more important, or is opening up a unit and having a more open space more important? If I recall correctly, they chose still buying it because location was more important than opening it up. So they left it the way it was because the board said no. So knowing what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do is really, really important. And the final one is all about future development plans. If you are buying into a complex, you are now part owner of this complex with all the other owners. What are the future development plans internally? So this is all inside your condo docs. What are they planning on doing of fixing, upgrading, improving? Again, but what is also happening on the outside? These are all really, really important because it can impact how you enjoy your unit, how you enjoy the complex, and how you enjoy that neighborhood. And so you want to know all of these things. So if you're considering a townhome as an investment, there are some other questions you must consider. And cash flow, I guarantee it, is going to be the most important one for you. So if you want to find out what is cash flowing in Calgary, what is working, go watch this video because we talk about all of that and so much more.